Okay, I am back. This warp is not over yet. We've still got about another 2 years and 200 days to go. So while we're working on that, we can think about what our plans actually are once we get there. We can just declare them dress colonists, or we can try to come part of the way back and then rescue them. Both of those are potential options. The one thing I'm not sure about right now is how much Delta V we will have after we're done landing. We'll have some, but I don't think it will be an absolute ton. The question is, can we get somewhat back towards Kerbal? I guess we'll see. If we've got like 1,000 or, well, even 1,000 is probably not... Dress has no atmosphere. How much does it actually take to enter orbit of Dress? Let me check. Delta V map KSP. Perfect. What do we got here? Here's the Delta V map, and for the Dress orbit, I always forget how to read this thing. 430 to enter an orbit, I think, if I'm reading it correctly. So in theory, as long as we have 430 Delta V, we should be rescuable. In theory. And I think we'll have more than that. But we'll find out. So we'll proceed here. We've got about another year and a half to warp here. And this, of course, is a result of not launching at the quote-unquote correct time. Now, if I had the ultimate speed mod installed, I forget what it's called again. It caused me issues, so I uninstalled it in the last one. If I had that installed, we'd be able to warp this a little bit faster, but in fact, a lot faster. It would have been done a long time ago. In reality, I probably should have that back. It did cause, well, actually, I don't think it did cause issues. I suspected it of causing issues with the Kraken, but I don't think it actually did. Okay, so we've got about a year now to warp. Best YouTuber? I don't know about that. That's high praise. I'm not sure that I can claim that. Especially not when we're sitting here waiting for a warp for this long. And I mean, if you had seen the rest of the stream, you might not agree with that either. This has not been going well today. But here we are. So we have about 300 days to go, about 3/4 of a year. Remember, a year in Kerbal Space Program is, I think, 500 days? No, like 420 some days. Something like that. It's a lot of days compared to our days. A Kerbal year is longer, and a Kerbal day is only 6 hours. So keep all that in mind as we warp our way through this. We've got about half a year to go. A little under. Cool. 120 days now. Gotta love these warps. I do like these hemispherical, there we go, liquid fuel tanks. These are nice. I like them. Unfortunately, I don't know how much Delta V we'll have after this. This is what happens when you just wing it. But we'll see. 30 days. And then this warp is going to get exciting too, because these aren't strutted together. So we'll see what happens here. Okay, let's warp a little further forward. We've got about 1 minute for our burn here. Cool. And we will burn this right about now. Now, this is going to be a 5-minute burn. I would absolutely love to physics warp it, and actually, it looks like that's reasonably fine. No major issues with physics warping it, so I love it. Now, to be clear, I knew that the interplanetary transfer stage was really weak when we did this. I knew that it only had about 1,000 Delta V. So that's fine. Off we go. We're definitely going to be able to land. The question is, how close are we going to get back to home? I don't think we're going to make it home, I think we'll have to do a rescue mission, but that's okay. About 1,300 meters per second to go here. And we're drawing out of these side tanks, not out of this center tank. So we've still got about another 2,500 meters per second in this, but if we ditch these before we land, which we likely will, then we're going to have to move these legs. That's a guarantee. It's not a big deal to move them, but we will have to. So about another 400 meters per second to go here. 300. 200. 100. Okay. 60 meters per second. 30. 0.8. Probably good enough. How's our encounter looking? Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So at this periapsis, this is not fine. What am I talking about? It's not fine at all. We're supposed to be a lot closer than this. Let's bring that on in. That's 588. Okay. So I'm going to thrust limit us down to 0.5% here so we can fine tune this. And let's bring this in. I'm going to bring it down to about 50, I think. There we go. So from here, we will go ahead and add a maneuver, and we will burn retrograde. And we'll try to circularize that a bit. Maybe not that much. There we go. So we know that we're going to have to get rid of these side tanks. That's a guarantee at this point. Let's go ahead and have Bill EVA. And I'm going to extend our ladder. I don't know if this ladder actually connects up. No, it doesn't. That's fine. It doesn't have to. We're going to grab onto the ladder and come down here. We're going to have to start moving around these legs. So, we are going to go into Kerbal construction mode. We're going to grab these legs, and I'm going to move one of them here. One of them will go, for the time being, here. Now, these are not exactly where we need them to go, but we're just positioning them on the actual craft right now. And I mean, these positions are maybe okay. The major problem at this exact moment is this. So I'm going to put it alongside the ladder for the time being. And we're probably going to move these again later on. But I wanted to be able to... We can exit this mode. I wanted to be able to get ourselves those moved over before I forgot. Okay, so we'll grab on here and climb back into the capsule. Beautiful. So now our landing legs are here rather than out here. Not carrying this weight does mean we'll burn a lot less fuel on our landing. So there is that. We'll move around to the maneuver node. And we will almost certainly be moving these. But for the moment, it's fine. This is going to be another 3-year warp. Well, let's get it started. It's going to take a while. So, how are you guys doing? Actually, you know what? This is a quasi-reasonable time here to show off the game I've been working on, I suppose. Let me hop over, and HDR is going to make this be lit a little strangely. That's for sure. Let me hop over to display capture here, though, and I do want to mention that I have switched off of using the Unity engine for now because I just don't like the way that that engine is going. But I'm currently using the Godot engine for my game development, and this is a game that I'm currently working on. You can't really see much right now, but let me hit the play button here. Things will be a little overlit for the moment because OBS doesn't play well with HDR, and I'm not set up for this at this moment. But this is very, very, very early. I have like 3 days of dev time in this, maybe. Like tops. So let's go ahead and run this, and this is the game as it exists right now. So you play as this like astronaut character here that is completely unnamed and has a temporary sprite, which is all completely fine. This is 2D, and as you can see, it is very dynamic. But if we zoom in here, I'll show you what's going on. So we've got our hand thrusters here that can push us, pushes us away from the cursor position. And then we've got our foot thrusters as well, which lifts us directly away from whatever planetary body we are currently orbiting around, or most attracted to, I should say. This does support N-body, although currently it uses a sphere of influence model. So it's kind of like this, and if you land too quickly on the planet, then you will take damage, just like that. You have to land it under 5 meters per second. There's not currently any sort of fuel or anything like that. This is basically the whole game right now, and there will eventually be like enemies and things like that. But you can also fire. I've got this assault rifle here, which is really not really an assault rifle. It's just a temporary testing thing. But you can fire out your weapons like that. Your ammo inherits your velocity, so it will move as you do, and it also gives you recoil that changes your orbit like that. So that's what I've got so far. It's very, very, very early right now. So there's not a lot to it to show for the moment, but that's what we've got for right now. Okay, back to KSP here. We're about a year and some change away. But one of the interesting things about it, I find that the physics model that I'm using there is actually really fun to play with, because virtually what ends up happening is your feet are always burning radial to your orbit. And you can only adjust your orbit unless you want to go radial with your arms, which are much less powerful. And so it ends up creating an interesting dynamic there where you can get some really funky orbits, even with it being in 2D. You can get some really funky orbits, and it's the way that you get there. I think the feel of the game is quite fun. So that's nice. Obviously, you don't know how the game feels to play, but that's my interpretation of it right now. Now, I'm planning on there being like enemies, and you can take control of planets, and those squares around the planet are intended to be like building slots where you can like create ammunition or have hospitals to heal yourself or things like that. And there would be like whole logistics chains and all that sort of thing. The idea of the game would be like there's enemies encroaching and you have to build up and defend your territory and push them out of the procedurally generated solar system. It's a long ways away from being any of that, but that's the overall concept. So we've got another 250 days on this warp. That's fine. We're getting very close to dress here. This is not exactly what we're looking for. We'll see if this changes, because this is not where this was before. We'll see if it changes after the warp. In fact, we should stop the warp. This is not where I put it. Let's head over to prograde and see what a tiny amount of prograde gives us. Okay, we're going to push that out. I'm going to go to 30 kilometers here. Actually, 20 is probably fine. Hopefully this doesn't change again, because that could have been bad. We would have completely crashed. Okay, so we'll just bring this in and circularize that. About like so. Cool. And we'll warp to that maneuver, and we'll see if that changes. No, looks good. It looks good. Fantastic. And to be clear, when I talked earlier about maybe doing some game dev streams, I don't think that game that I showed you would be the one that I'd do. I think I'd start a new series with a new project that I've been thinking about for a while that would end up being something that I would do the whole thing on stream, right? So that way there wouldn't be any confusing things. Like, I added all of this stuff and no one has any idea how it works, you know? Okay, where are we? This is gonna be a 1-day burn? Oh, right. Let's move our thrust limiter back up. There we go. Now we can bring this in a little bit more. Cool. 3 hours. Where is Dress? Is that Dress? That's Dress. Cool. Hi, Dress. Fancy meeting you here. So this break is going to eat up all of the fuel in here. We're good to detach this once we've eaten up that fuel. That's fine. And then we can change these around, although honestly they're probably okay where they are. This one is just very slightly off center. But it's fine. So we're going to warp in a little bit further here. And we're going to burn this in 5 seconds. 2, 1, and 0. Cool. So this is going to be a somewhat lengthy burn, but our thrust to weight here is 8.09, and our thrust to weight here is going to be 14.08, so it's going to be a big, big boost to our thrust to weight ratio. So that's good. We're now not in orbit over Dress. With that camera change, I thought we would be, but we weren't. Okay. Well, let's bring this on in. We've got about 1.5 minutes on this burn still, and about half of that is going to be these external tanks, so that's good. Yeah, we're burning almost half of it out of the external tanks. I like it. But they've still got another 15 seconds of burn, so we'll detach them as soon as they're done. And I think we're okay to land on these legs as they are. I do think that. Cool. Another kilometer per second approximately to burn off here, but we need to detach these now. Those fuel tanks are empty, and they're just dead weight for us at this point. Cool. So our thrust to weight ratio is quite high. That's for sure. We're not in orbit over Dress just yet. We're also not quite to our periapsis yet. So we don't need to be concerned about our timing for the moment. Yeah, it's looking okay. Our delta V is definitely on the low side for getting back. We're not going to do that. That's not going to happen. Not with this design. Okay. That's us entering orbit. And circularization is happening-ish. This is quite low. Well, actually, I think at this point we're going to call that good. We're going to come around to the periapsis, and we're going to lower the apoapsis a little bit further. 12 kilometers is the minimum orbit that I was seeing on the delta V chart, so that seems fine. Yeah, it's okay. So we'll line up for that. And we'll warp around. That'll be in about 8 minutes. Cool. About 1 more minute here. There we go. And let's get that burn done. That's a very, very minor burn. Cool. So that should be reasonably safe. And then we're going to go in for a landing, I think, in this dark portion over here where it's nice and bright. Cool. I like how it's a dark portion that's nice and bright. That's definitely how things work. And we're mostly using this as timing here, but we're going to go to surface retrograde. 404 meters per second, huh? So we're going to warp to that next maneuver. Cool. I want to land on the light side for sure. And that's loading in the high detail dress bits, which is fine. Let's go ahead and begin our landing. Our horizontal speed is dropping precipitously. 100 meters per second left horizontally. 2 meters per second left horizontally. So we're going to flip around to our vertical orientation here, and we'll extend these landing legs. We have to do them all one at a time because we moved them. And of course, this one is slightly off center, which is, I'm sure, very irritating, and I apologize for that. We're going to head up over this direction here and just burn off a little bit more horizontal speed. That's much better. Cool. So down we go. We see our suicide burn is going to be in 1 minute and 50 seconds. I always like to make that be a little bit more generous. And the DV there is 155.1 meters per second. We can get this thing back into orbit, I'm pretty sure. Okay. So let's bring this on down. About 1 minute to the suicide burn. I like to err on the side of caution on that. So like 5 to 10 seconds before. 12, 11, 10. I'm going to burn it at 5 seconds before. There we go. And we'll drop that down, and we'll let ourselves fall again, and then burn it 5 seconds before again. I just like to be safe. It's not the most efficient way. Cool. And we'll just very gently slow ourselves down here. There we go. I'm ignoring this now, and we're just eyeballing it. Cool. We'll go into stability assist. We're still a little ways from landing here. So let's bring that on down. There we go. Beautiful. So here we are on Dress. It's been a very long time since I've landed on Dress. So that's always nice. Getting home is going to be exciting, for sure. But here we are. And let's just go ahead and have Bob EVA. And he's just like, yep. Yep. Looks like Dress. I kind of want to go see what that thing is. I don't think I've been to Dress since they've added the mission bits. So let's go see what this thing is. Now, to be clear, we could get back to Kerbal with the Delta V that we have right now. We just shouldn't. We can get out and push, and it would take forever. This looks like almost like a copper formation or something. That's pretty neat. From this angle, less so. It's just a big rock. Cool. Now, we don't have a contract to do anything here, of course, but we can deploy our chute. That's a great idea. Or remove our helmet. That's a better idea. I'm going to plant a flag here, though. And this flag is going to be... any moment now. This flag rocks. Perfect. That flag does rock. Look at that rock. That's not the direction I wanted you to go there, Bob. Let's have you come up here. What I wanted you to do is come up. There you go. And jump off of this. Can we jump all the way back to our craft without Bob dying? The answer is no. And we're going to have to alter our velocity a wee bit. There we go. So we're going to bring this around, and Bob will head back in. Cool. Okay, so we've visited Dress. It's been Oh, I don't even know how long it's been since we've been to Dress. This is probably the most neglected planet in the Kerbal system, if I'm honest. But we can definitely get back into orbit. Can we break out of Dress orbit and get into stellar orbit? I doubt it. I really doubt it. But we can get a rescue mission going, and I think that's our plan. So we're going to get out of here, and we're going to just make our way up over this direction. What is our apoapsis height? I think it's plenty. We'll retract our legs. And we're going to push our apoapsis up to, I guess, 35 kilometers. And once we get to 35 kilometers, we will go ahead and circularize that as best we can, which we can actually do pretty well at. Cool. So we only have 361 meters per second here. I'm not expecting that we're getting home on that, for sure. We can't warp at this altitude, obviously. What we can do is physics warp, and so we shall. We are homeward bound with our 361 meters per second. We're not making it, but that's fine. We don't have to. We made it off of the surface of Dress, which is, you know, like 400 meters per second of the battle. We could get these guys home by pushing. That would take forever. And it's very hard to control, too. Like, you have to get in the right position and burn out almost all of their EVA propellant and then get back into the cab and just keep doing it. I don't know. It's a whole thing. Okay, we're at sea level altitude of 15 kilometers here. Can we warp now? We can. Beautiful. So we will circularize here, and we'll see how high of an orbit over Dress we can get. Getting back to Dress with the rescue craft, we know is going to be pretty expensive now. We know it's going to be about 2,200 meters per second to transfer to Dress, and then about another 2,000 to break once we get there. Unless we find a better transfer window, obviously. So we know that we're going to need like 4,000 delta V from solar orbit. Should have a limited atmosphere. You could just bounce off of it. Trust me, I watched it in Star Trek once. I believe I also watched that in Star Trek once. Okay. 10 seconds here. 2, 1, and 0. Cool. Not going to burn this too hard. We just need to get into a proper orbit. We're now technically in a proper orbit. Cool. Now the question is, with our 328 remaining meters per second, there's a Class C asteroid over here. With our 328 remaining meters per second, how close to home can we get? Answer, not very. I can tell you that right now. Let's see what this looks like. We can escape Dress's orbit. That's actually a pretty huge deal. And if we're going to do that, we should do that from this side, like over here, so that way, as we burn out of Dress's orbit, we're pulling down our apoapsis and making it a lot easier to get to ourselves. To rescue ourselves. That's the term I'm looking for. Okay, so we have 328 meters per second. Something about like this. This is about the best we can do, but this orbit is easier to get to than the Dress orbit. So that's good. Another thing that we could do is try to more circularize it. That's an option too. That would make it easier to intercept. And the way that we would do that is by like changing the timing here slightly. Very slightly. It's a little awkward to zoom in and out like this to try to see it, but it would be kind of like this, I think. Ish. Actually, it's the other direction, I'm pretty sure. We'd need to go like this side. That's not exactly circularized. It's not going to be exactly circularized. I think that just burning it at this point right here, basically directly in line between dress and the sun, is our most efficient place to do it. And I think that's fine. Cool. So we'll line up for that. And we will warp to that. And then we're going to have to get our rescue mission going. That's absolutely fine. We shouldn't have a huge problem with that. So we'll get aligned here, and then we will burn out all of our remaining fuel. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. We're almost ready to burn our fuel. Cool. And let's burn it on out. Beautiful. This would have been a lot easier if we could have arrow braked around dress, but sadly we can't. Oh yeah, we just burn all of it. There we go. Cool. So that puts us in this orbit. And with that, let's go ahead and head back to the Space Center, because we now need to create our rescue craft. And how do we want to do this? Give Jeb some beans to create more fuel for easier recovery. I mean, that would work, in theory. Okay, we're going to hop into the VAB here, and what are we going to do for our craft? Well, this is going to be a relatively simple craft here. I'm going to create a new craft, and this is going to be light, and it's going to be relatively quick to design. So we're going to put in a remote guidance unit. This is not intended to be like... This is not intended to pick them up and bring them back, right? This is intended to attach to the craft and refuel it. That's the idea here. So we're going to bring one T16 fuel tank. That is going to be the fuel that we put back into it. Then we're going to grab onto it with a claw in order to transfer the fuel. So we're going to use an advanced grabbing unit, like so. And then we're going to also have on here, we're going to have power and maybe a reaction wheel too. I don't know how... This is maybe going to be a little weak on the reaction wheel. Maybe not that weak. But I think I am going to go ahead and put in a large reaction wheel. And we're going to need power on this too. So we're going to run a 4K rechargeable battery bank. That's pretty heavy. And we're also going to need power. So I'm actually going to run a pair of Gigantors on this. Yeah, they're huge. They're, well, Gigantor. And then, down here, we're going to grab an engine plate. I don't want to burn any of this fuel. So we're going to grab an EP25, and we're going to make that be quad. Then, we're going to get some xenon. Those clip together a little bit, but it's probably fine. Yes, this is very expensive, but that's okay. We're doing this for fun. This is not a career mode. Okay, these do clip together. That's probably too much, right? Like, that's a lot of xenon. I do want to check to see what the power draw of an ion propulsion engine for each of these would be. Let's see here. It would be... I'm completely blind. Here we go. So the power draw for these are 8.74 per second. The Gigantors produce, in theory, like peak efficiency, 24.4. So this should be sufficient. We're not going to have that much fall off. But I am thinking, well, actually, let's look at how much delta V this is. That's 12,000. I'm going to drop this weight here down a bit, and we're going to use these smaller xenon containers, I think. That's only 2,000 delta V, so that's not really enough. Maybe instead, we should do triple so that these don't clip together. They still clip a little bit. No, I don't like this. I don't like this. I have a different idea. And here's that idea. We're going to put a modular girder segment, or actually, we're going to put a modular girder hub. That's too big. A cubic octagonal strut out over here. And we're going to do 4 of them. Like so. Then we're going to do another cubic octagonal strut connected to them like that. But I'm going to rotate it like that. This is really weird looking. But now we're going to move this in about like that. So now we have a downward facing hardpoint here. We can do another cubic octagonal strut there. And then we can put our xenon containers like that. We're going to need to strut that together for sure. And we'll put in our ion propulsion engines here. Technically, we could have more than 4, but I don't think that's necessary. Our thrust to weight is already going to be really low here. This is basically going to be the entire thing that we're going to bring, but we definitely need a very powerful antenna on this. So we certainly need, let's see, 2G, 15G. I'm going to run one of these. There we go. So something like that. And then we're going to have this here is going to have a decoupler. So we're going to put like a TD12 here. Cool. And then we're going to have this be modular girder segments through here. Going to do 1 and 2. Then we're going to strut this like so. That needs to be on quad symmetry. And then we'll make sure that these are strutted together as well, just so that we're not too wiggly. There we go. Cool. So this thrust to weight is going to be very low. This probably means very long burn times, but we'll see. I'm going to put in a 32 tank here. This is going to be ESA, and this is going to be our quote-unquote interplanetary transfer stage. It's probably not going to be that, but let's see how much delta V that has. About 2,000. That's pretty good. I mean, this has way more than enough to get what we want done. Technically, we probably don't even need the second round of xenon containers here, and we can get away with something more along the lines of this. That'll save us some weight and some delta V down here. Yeah, that's pretty good. That should be more than enough. And that means that we don't need this modular girder segment either. We slightly need it. Very slightly. Unless we were to just move this up a little bit. Like that. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to remove this for the moment, and we're going to put a fairing in here, because I would like to have a big old fairing on this. A 3.75 meter fairing? I think that's going to be required. Okay, so we'll bring this up about like that. That fairing will, of course, be gotten rid of by the time we fire this. Okay, now I do want to have an adapter here. Adapter, if I can type. There we go. So we need, like, not one of these guys. We need a Kerbal adapter, but inverted. Like that. But that does not have fuel in it. So is there a size of adapter that we want for that? I mean, that's a Mark III adapter. That's close. That is close. This is almost the same amount of fuel as we have in here. So that basically doubles this amount of fuel. Lifting this amount of fuel will be exciting, but that's fine. We can just strap on more boosters, right? That seems okay. So we'll come on down here and we'll lift this with something along the lines of this And then a mainsail might not be the way to go here. Let me think about that for a moment. What is our thrust to weight if we use a mainsail? 1.09? Okay. I mean, we could do that with SRBs. But I'd kind of like to make these external tanks liquid fueled here. We haven't done that in a while. So let's put in, I actually want to rotate these like so. And then let's put these in somewhere around, I do want snapping back on. Put these somewhere around there. And then we're going to put on more Jumbo 64 tanks. I want these liquid fueled like so. And then we will rotate this like that. Move this on down to be about here. And then we'll do like an engine plate. And EP25. Actually, no, we won't. I forgot that they changed the size on vectors. Vectors are adaptable to different sizes now, so we can have a 2.5 meter vector. We can do something kind of like this. So this on its own is only 0.68. What is the actual efficiency of vectors, so? 315? Well, it's at sea level that we're interested in. So 285 to 95. So they are a little bit more efficient at sea level. They do have less thrust than the mainsail, but that's kind of what I was going for. But it's not enough. So we'd have to do something like this. That's 1.48. That should be enough. Okay, so I do want some hemispherical tanks here. So we'll do the Rockamax size. And we'll have them be... I think we'll have these external ones be white. Or black and white. Black and white on the bottom. Actually, that looks pretty good. I like it. And these could be boat-tailed. And then... like that. That actually looks pretty good. Now, they're not strutted together. And this isn't exactly perfect, but that's fine. So with them not being strutted together, we're going to have to fix that. Otherwise, we'll have another giant explosion right off the pad. And of course, they're not liquid fueled together either. They're not fuel ducted, should I say. So we'll go ahead and get ourselves an external fuel duct, and we'll connect that down here. About like so. Cool. So, I mean, that fairing is a little bit awkward, but overall, that seems like that should do it. Rescue craft. Now, of course, our design here is predicated on not using this fuel, because that will be what brings back our other craft. And this is, of course, not intended to be brought back through the atmosphere. We could certainly crash it into something, but there we go. All looks good here. So this should be plenty of Delta V to get us where we're trying to go. I do want to combine these together. The fairing will manually deploy, and that decoupler can fire at that time. That's okay. Our staging all looks good. So let's go on a rescue mission with this actually quasi-good-looking craft. We could have this be white. That might be a little bit better with this adapter here. Yeah, I think that looks better than the ESA. Cool. So let's go ahead and launch that. I think that's actually a surprisingly good-looking craft at this point. I love it. Also, those hemispherical tanks, I really like them. I don't know why I didn't use them until now. Are those part of the restock mod? They might be. That might be why I didn't use them until, like, literally this stream. Okay, let's go ahead and lift this thing off. Our thrust to weight's a little on the low side. We already knew that that would be the case. Beautiful. So off we go. Gonna start our gravity turn now. There we go. We're definitely a little slow off the pad, but we knew that would be the case, and that's kind of the point of the liquid fueling, so it should be okay. As long as we don't start tumbling here, which is always a possibility. Okay. Just correcting our trajectory slightly. I think I overcorrected it there. Let's bring it back down. Cool. So we're going to have our side boosters detaching shortly here. But I'm actually pretty pleased with the look of this particular one. I think that turned out really well. Okay, I'm going to lock to prograde here. We don't want to be off of prograde when we detach. Which will be in 5 seconds here. 3, 2, 1, and clean. I like it. Okay, so our apoapsis height is currently plenty high. We're going to head on over here, directly to the horizon. I'm currently checking our time to apoapsis. That's dropping, so we're going to continue burning here until that starts to go back up, which it will pretty soon here. We can also ditch our fairing as of about now, so we don't need that weight. Beautiful. And we're just chilling at the horizon for a little bit here. This thing is so overbuilt, it's funny. This is very, very overbuilt. Okay, we're just looking for as much horizontal speed as we can get right now, but we're going to push this up to about 100 kilometers. That'll be fine. And we are officially in space as of now, so we will extend our solar panels. Beautiful. And there's 100 kilometers. So let's look at getting ourselves in orbit here. Okay. So we start that burn in about a minute. Sounds good. We'll lock to this maneuver node, and we've got ourselves our solar panels filling our batteries back up. Of course, they should be full already because this engine has an alternator on it, so that's fine. Cool. 2 seconds left on this burn. Or burn. 2 seconds left till this burn. There we go. Beautiful. And we've got about 3,000 delta V in here too, so should be fine. Okay, let's get circularized. I usually don't like the boat tails, but I think they look really good on this particular rocket. I like it. I particularly like the way it looked on the pad. Now that the side boosters are off, I think it's, and the fairing is off, I think it's a little less good looking, but that initial rocket was really cool looking, I think. Okay, we've got about another 10 seconds left to burn here before we're properly in orbit. I should remember to deploy our antenna as well. Okay, that's good enough. Beautiful. So we're tumbling a little bit, but that's fine. We are now going to gravity assist around the moon. Not that I think that we actually need it. I mean, this gravity assist is, I think, unnecessary, but we may as well get the efficiency out of it. Cool. And that's only in about a minute here. So we'll get looped on around towards there. Beautiful. And of course, this stage here will get used up eventually. I don't know how much of this Xenon stage we're actually going to use, though. That'll be interesting. And of course, this Rockamax tank is not intended to be utilized at any time. Well, by these engines. 33 seconds until our burn here. 10 seconds. And burn. So we're going to burn out this primary stage here shortly, and our interplanetary transfer stage will take over. But that's exactly the point. We want the interplanetary transfer stage to be taking over at this time. Wait, what? Wait, what? What just happened? This decoupler didn't decouple. That's awkward. Well, that's really weird. I guess we're bringing this thing with and fueling it from up here. Sure? That's very strange. How are we looking for our transfer here? We need to burn a little bit more prograde here. Good thing we're overbuilt, I guess. Okay, that'll do. That's bizarre. And the shroud never went away either. I'm very confused, but sure. I wonder what happens if we quick save and load it. That would be this one? Yes. What happens if we reload it? Does it detach? I mean, we're not reliant on it detaching. So if this doesn't work... Yeah, we're not reliant on it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shut down this engine. This engine is far more efficient. We don't need this one online. And I guess we'll see if we burn off this Rockamax tank. Which can happen. But that's really weird. Well, we'll go ahead and warp to our Kerbal escape. So we'll need to warp into here first. Here we come, Moon, with more rocket than we intended. And let's get out of here. That's in 404 days. Yeah, we'll be like all the way up here. Cool. Oh, we can't auto-warp that far. There we go. Fantastic. Is the coupler in the top stage? No, we literally can't interact with it. The coupler in the top stage is the one that is up here. So, see? It highlights up there. That's this coupler. This coupler we just can't interact with. It's just broken. Well, it's fine. We're not reliant on it. It's okay. We have redundancies. So we need to set this craft here as our target, which could be awkward with it that close to dress, but we'll set it there. And next we'll need to go to our descending node here. And we'll need to burn normal a fair amount here in order to get that done. And we'll see if we're actually blocking our thrust here. I'm not sure if that's happening or not. So we'll align to this. But yeah, this we can't click on it at all. This is supposed to be completely broken at this point, but like it's supposed to have detached, but it hasn't. I'm pretty sure that's a bug, but we should be okay here in theory. Even if we have to ditch all of this fuel, which we don't, because we can burn it with this mainsail, like bare minimum. Even if we need to do that, we're completely fine here. So we'll warp around. Like, there was a lot of stuff earlier in the stream that went wrong that was my fault. I don't believe that's the case here. It's still a very good-looking rocket, though. It would be better if we could detach this. And we can test it on the pad after this. Okay. So we're going to burn this, and yeah, this is deflecting our flow here, so we're not actually able to burn with that engine. So we can't burn with our efficient engine. We will have to burn with our inefficient engine. So we're going to burn this out a lot faster than we otherwise would have, but that's fine. We've got plenty of delta V to make this happen. But yeah, this decoupler definitely should have decoupled. So because of that, our inclination change ended up burning up almost our entire fuel supply here. We're not burning this fuel, which is good. Okay, so there's our inclination change. Now we need to find ourselves an interception. And the question is, where can we find such a thing? Actually, this is pretty close. Our relative speed is up there, for sure. We want to change the timing on this, ideally, to be at the apoapsis, but it's pretty close to it. And that's about 32 kilometers separate, or 32,000 kilometers separate, rather. So let's work on bringing that down a bit. 2 kilometers separate was the best that I saw there. Or 2,000 kilometers separate, rather. Okay. And this is actually dropping the relative speed too, but it's starting to lose efficiency. So let's take a look at maybe some inclination differences. Yes. $300 kilometers separate, 200, starting to go back up. Okay. $124. 14. Cool. That's getting very sensitive there. Okay, when did this start going back up? Here, 12.8. Okay. That's about 2 kilometers apart. That's way too sensitive to do radially. Okay. .4 kilometers. We'll call that good. So this is obviously a lot of delta V, and once we get there, our relative speed will be a lot of delta V too. So these burns will be quite long, is the thing. We'll get into position, and we'll start our burn there. We have the delta V to make this happen. So we'll start warping over. We definitely could have gotten there a lot faster if we hadn't have had this decoupler bug. The plan was to do a lot of this maneuvering with this fuel, which, because we're burning it from the mainsail, which is a lot less specific impulse, like here, if we activate this, 350 specific impulse versus 310. So this engine is a lot more efficient at this time. Oh, we were supposed to start the burn like 5 minutes ago? Sure, but that's because it's a very long burn. Okay. So we're going to burn out this fuel. Okay. Now we separate everything. There we go. So this is going to be very, very lengthy from here. We can definitely physics warp it, and we will certainly do so. But this is going to be like a 48-minute burn, and then once we get there, there's going to be another roughly 48-minute burn. As I said, I knew that these were going to be very long burns. I planned for this to happen with the interplanetary transfer stage before the bug occurred. So as it is, even on 4x time acceleration, this is going to be a while. And I'm not sure how much we can really do about that. I mean, on 4x time acceleration, it will be better. That's for sure. But that was a lot of wasted delta V. Like, a whole lot of wasted delta V. here we are. So at 4x time acceleration, this is going to be like 10.5 minutes of, well, this. I wish that there was a way that we could accelerate it via the cheat menu. I really don't think that there is. I'm also wondering if there's anything in here indicating what happened. Maybe, but I'm not very good at that. So, I mean, we could potentially... I mean, Delta V is never going to be a problem for us here, right? Because we need like 3,000 total. We've got almost 7,000 here. So one thing we could potentially do is increase our thrust to weight ratio. Hang on. Can we increase our thrust to weight ratio with the hack gravity cheat? Whoa. Okay, we don't want that. We'll reset it. Okay. That's definitely not what we want. I'm pretty sure. It did increase our thrust to weight ratio, but not by very much. How else can we accelerate this? We could set our orbit to be like 400 meters away from it and just speed it up that way. We would be relative speed of 0 though. That said, maybe for the time save, that's okay. And we can just be like, well, you know, we spent like an extra 3,000 Delta V to get there. It's an option. We're looking at about 20 minutes to get there as it is. What do you guys think? Would you rather that we accelerated a bit? Or would you rather and cheat our way there? Or would you rather that we very slowly work our way there the old-fashioned way? Because the plan was definitely to do this with higher thrust to weight. This was only supposed to be minor maneuvers once we got very close. I don't know. We'll see. Because that is an option for sure. We know we'd be about 400 meters away, and that would be from the untitled spacecraft. Or actually, it wouldn't be that, would it be? It would be... No, maybe it would be untitled spacecraft. Yeah, it would be. Like that. So that's one option. We can definitely do it that way, and Delta V would not be a concern. It would just be a time save. So I don't know. It's up to you guys. I know at this point in the stream, it's usually pretty quiet, but we'll see. For the time being, we'll continue with this. And like, we're not having any electric charge issues. We have plenty of xenon. This isn't a problem. 20 minutes, huh? Well, it's 2:17. I think it's fine. Unless you guys are really wanting to skip ahead, I think we'll continue like this. We're already 25% of the way through this burn, which means that we're like 1/8 of the way through both burns. I think cheating would be less fun. Okay, we can definitely do it this way. Like I was saying, I was leaning towards that, but it is an option if we wanted to speed it up. But sure, we can definitely do it this way. Sounds good to me. This would have been a lot faster if we hadn't have had that decouple bug, but we did, and it's all good. We can still make it. But I also understand that it will take ages. Yeah, it definitely will. I mean, we're looking at another... Let's see, we're on 4x time acceleration, so we're looking at like another 7.5 minutes on this burn, which doesn't seem that bad, in all honesty. 7.5 minutes on this burn isn't so bad. And then once we get up to here, I mean, it's going to be a while to warp that year as well. So we're looking at about 7.5 minutes on this burn, probably about 5-ish minutes for the warp. And then I'm thinking probably somewhere along the lines of 10 minutes for this deceleration burn. Honestly, I don't think that's that bad. It's longer than it was intended to take. And because it's going to be so much longer, our separation is going to be a little higher than anticipated, I think. But it's fine. I think we'll do it this way. Don't mind me, I'm just imbibing my tea. We should probably get this advanced grabbing unit eventually armed. There we go. It would be very nice if we could get our physics warp up to like X8 time, but I imagine that would just break the game. Like physics warp on 4X time already kind of breaks the game. So we're down to 6 kilometers per second left. We've got more than enough. We need about 2,400. So we've got more than twice what we need. So that sounds good. I have switched over to my second cup of tea. I have now finished my first cup of tea, and that is amazing. But yeah, this thrust to weight is very, very low, and because Xenon is so weight efficient, we're not expecting this thrust to weight to get better until we empty this fuel tank. Emptying this fuel tank will be roughly, what, half or 3/4 of the mass here? Nothing in this stream can go off without a hitch. That is absolutely correct. It is not legal for this stream to go well. Perfect. About 5 minutes left in this burn. And that should be okay. I mean, there's 20 minutes left, but we're on 4x time acceleration. So about 5 minutes left for us. In the meantime, let me just refresh to see if tomorrow's SLS launch got canceled. I don't think it has. I know that they got their final go-ahead like a couple days ago, so that's always great. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Like, that's going to be such a huge launch. The Artemis program is awkward and not the most cost-efficient program, I think. But the Artemis program is also very exciting, and I'm very much looking forward to people returning to the moon. That's going to be very, very cool. And that launches in, well, not the people going to the moon part, but the launch is in, like, just doing some mental math here, like 17 hours for the unmanned, like, Pathfinder mission. Cool. 15 minutes left in this burn, which of course means about 3 minutes for us. So that's actually going pretty well, all things considered. We still have like 15 hours to go. Yeah. Yup. And I will definitely be setting an alarm for that one. Pro tip, depending on how long that coverage goes, tomorrow's Stellaris episode might end up being a little late. We'll see. We'll see. Time is usually pretty squishy on that. If I get up in time, I can probably get that episode recorded before the launch, though. That should probably be okay. That said, I'm going to have to get to bed at a reasonable time tonight. Because, yeah, this whole 3 hours of sleep thing, it's not great. I'm not going to lie. I don't love 3 hours of sleep. Actually, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I had like 5 hours of sleep. That's a lot better than 3. But the night before, I also had like 5 hours of sleep, and I don't operate well on that, so yeah, I should get to bed at a reasonable time tonight, get up and get that Stellaris episode recorded at like 5:30. That'd be nice. I mean, in theory, if I got up at like 5 o'clock and started recording at like 5:15, in theory, I would be able to watch the launch after I finish all of tomorrow's recording. In theory. 2:33 p.m. for EU time zone, so quite a good time. Yeah, I'm a little surprised they're launching it as early as they are. I have to assume that that's something about like transfer window timing. Because I kind of figured with a launch this big that they'd be launching, or that they'd like to launch it in like US prime time. That would be my expectation. But no, they're launching like super early in the morning on a Monday. Well, not at like 4 a.m. in the morning, but like 7:30 in the morning on a Friday or Friday. Wow. Oh, we're currently in the getting to the end of stream plus sleep deprived lunacy going on here. It's great. So we've got about 6 minutes left in this burn, which of course means that we've got about a minute and a half from our perspective. Cool. Definitely the launch window. Yeah, I suspect that's the case. I'm not 100% sure what the launch window requirements are for the near rectilinear halo orbit, but I would imagine that's probably launch window. If they had the opportunity, I bet they would have scheduled it in US primetime, because it's like the biggest NASA flagship mission launch since like the 60s or 70s, I guess, with like the tail end of the Apollo stuff. Maybe the first shuttle launch, but realistically, I think that this is bigger than the first shuttle launch. Do you know how long is the launch window? I do not. There's a lot of information about the Artemis 1 flight that I'm unsure of. I'll have to look up a lot of information about it. I know that it's an unmanned Pathfinder mission that's intended for the that's intended to be the Pathfinder improving the components all work for the first flight that's going to be like next year, which will be the one that actually lands on the moon for the first time in like 60 years. Okay, this burn is officially over. Beautiful. So now we need to start warping our way up here. We can see that we overshot it a bit. Our separation is pretty far. Let's move this around, and we're not going to be in physics warp here. I'm going to thrust limit these down to like 3%. Oh, we have to do them one at a time? That's disgusting. Okay. We'll bring that on down to 3% here. And let's see about fine-tuning this down. Oh, that's very slow. Okay. 3% is overshot. Cool. Let's bring this up to like 30%. Let's see how that feels. We need to be having some pretty fine control here. But not that fine of control. That's much better. Okay. We can even probably physics warp that slightly. There we go. Down to 5,000 kilometers separate. Okay. That's starting to go back up. So let's bring this back around to prograde. Actually, let's burn towards target here. Cool. Towards target is much better than prograde here. We're losing efficiency. That's fine. So we're going to start warping up to about here. I'm not sure exactly where our warp is going to end up being, or rather where our burn is going to be. We should probably figure that out. So I'm going to actually cancel this before we warp, and I'll add the maneuver here. And this is going to be a delta V of, what was that, like 1610? I have to get rid of this. 1619.1. Okay, so 1619.1, and we don't, of course, care about the actual directionality of this. We want to be in target retrograde for this. So we'll warp on over there. We're just using this for timing. Cool. And we're going to be like 9,000 kilometers apart. That's okay. We knew that we were going to be a ways apart. We're going to have to make a bit of an approach here. I'm going to unthrust limit these because this is going to be another pretty lengthy burn. And actually, we have to be unwarped in order to unthrust limit them. That's slightly annoying. Okay, so off we go on this warp. That is going to be about 300 days. And we'll have that done shortly. back to the tea. Oh, I definitely wouldn't make it through these streams if I didn't have the tea here. It can be a little complicated. That's actually, it almost looks like an asteroid. I know it's just part of the skybox, but that's pretty neat. It almost looks like it's just a giant comet. Like, can you imagine a comet that size? Like, from this perspective, that comet would be larger than the sun. Just imagine the amount of gravitational disruption that would cause. Of course, at that mass, a comet would turn into a sun. It would turn into a star, and potentially, depending on what it's made of, that might actually become a black hole at that size. I don't know. That would strongly depend on what it was made of. So this burn is going to start here in about 5 minutes. And we definitely want to warp a little closer than this. So let's go on in. Now it's about 1 minute out. That's better. Cool. And we're going to burn this shortly. This is going to be another lengthy burn, about the same length as that first one. So we already knew that that was coming. 2, 1, and 0. Cool. We'll physics warp that. That will be done in like 12 minutes, something like that. And man, I'm glad I went for that highest strength antenna. That's down to 13%. I knew it'd be far, but I didn't think it would quite be this far. Interesting. And again, we don't actually care about this maneuver. Yes, it's going up. That's because we're burning target retrograde. We're not actually going that direction here. We're going to get rid of this, and that's fine. Oh, we need to orient ourselves like so. We lost power. Right, because we're a lot further away right now. We're having a lot less energy flow. That makes sense. So we're going to have to shut down a couple of these engines, for sure. And that's going to make this even longer. That means we're going to overshoot pretty far, too. I should have thought of that, but I thought that we wouldn't be far enough out to have this big of a drop. 3.5 energy flow here. That's kind of insane. Okay, well, once again, it's this stream, so everything has to go wrong. Once again, a miscalculation on my part. So that means that this is going to take a lot longer. And that we're going to massively overshoot here. Okay. Well, actually, that intersect isn't looking so bad. That's an hour out. So normally what I would do in this situation in a series is I would just hit the pause button on OBS and go AFK for like a while or just tab out. But yeah, that's going to be a while. That's going to be a while. One single engine is all that can run right now. And that means that our thrust is a little bit off center, but we should be okay. That shouldn't be a huge issue. I'm just looking right now at our electric charge generation. So yeah, I knew that we were going to have some energy flow reduction from these Gigantors as we headed out here, but they produced 24 and we needed 8 per. So I figured that we would get around half reduction. No, we got way more than half reduction. Like, we are a ways away from Kerbin at this point, or rather from Kerbal at this point, but like, we're within the dress orbit. We're nowhere near Joule. I thought that this would not see this big of diminishing returns already. But here we are. So this is going to be a very lengthy one. Like, it was going to be 10 minutes. Now it's going to be 40. at this point, and our timing is going to be wrong, so there's that as well. Here's something that we could do. Because the stream is scheduled to end at this point in like 26 minutes, and this is not going to be done by then at this point because of that miscalculation on my part. So that's entirely my own fault. I was willing to do it as it was, but for an additional 40 minutes here, just to get to this point, right? I mean, we'll only be like 360 kilometers out in an hour, but we need to bring that relative speed down. A lot. So, what if we just time warped it, quote unquote? Our relative speed would be at 0, and we'd be 358.5 meters per second apart. Because literally that would just be a time save. It would literally just be sitting here watching this for close to an hour. So I'm strongly tempted right now to do this, but instead of being 400 kilometers, not m kilometers, instead of being 400 or m kilometers apart, it would be, well, 357. That number is dropping as we burn. The question is, how low would that end up getting? We can try to project that. It's dropping by about 0.025 kilometers per meter per second. So, pulling open a calculator, 1411 times 0.025. Okay. It would drop down, according to my back of the envelope calculation there, it would drop down by about another 35 kilometers. Is that right? No. About twice that much. It's going down by approximately half a kilometer, or not half a kilometer, approximately 0.2 kilometers per meter per second, I think. Maybe 0.25. Okay. So that would be about 350 kilometers over the course of this entire distance. So we would end up being 2 kilometers away. Or actually like 6. 6 kilometers away, according to my projection there. So this approximate distance would be not 60,000, 6,000. Like that. Okay, let's do the time save here. Is that 6,000 kilometers or 6,000 meters? Let's find out. 6,000 meters. Okay. So we're at the end of that. We burned another 1,400. So we'll just keep in mind that our actual number of delta V is 1,400 meters per second from this. Cheating at this point is understandable. I was hoping for it not being needed, but it looks like that's not possible. Yeah, I was completely willing to do it when we had enough power flow, but at this point we just need to speed it up a little bit, I think. So we just need to burn towards the target, and we can see we're about 6 kilometers away. So we're going to burn towards the target and rendezvous in a little bit closer here. Where are we? Here we are. Okay. So that's a separation of 0.5 kilometers. 0.1. That's good enough. So we're going to turn around. We're still at 0.0 relative meters per second. Wow. We're going to flip around to anti-target here. And we're going to warp ahead about 30 days. I don't know how accurate this is. That's now 27 kilometers out. That's weird. Things move around sometimes in a strange fashion when you start warping. Now it's 725 kilometers away. Okay, I'm not going to believe it. I'm just going to whip us around here to the target. And we're going to eyeball this. I don't want to be facing that way. I want to be facing this way for optimal power flow. We need to turn these other engines on. There we go. We are going to run out of power eventually, but we have a good amount stored up right now. So that's fine. We're going to bring this in at about... Yeah, this is not what we're looking for. We're going to bring it in at about 10 meters per second for now. And let's see how good that goes. We're going to flip around to target retrograde, and we're going to warp it. We need to fill our electric charge back up. And let's warp on in. Cool. Let's see how close we get here. Okay. 2 kilometers apart. There we go. This is very, very close. This is absolutely fine. When we get this close, it's usually better to eyeball it, in my experience. Okay. So we're braking here, and we've overshot slightly, but that's fine. Cool. Just trying to get that down to 0.0. There we go. I'm going to rotate over here, and we're going to turn this so that we don't hopefully destroy that solar panel. And then we're going to come on in here, point at the target, and we're going to go in at about like 0.5 meter per second here. Cool. And we're going to see about grabbing on. Beautiful. So there's that grab, and at this point, we just need to refuel this. So we will transfer this out, and we'll get this pod completely refueled. Beautiful. And then we'll just send this on like some sort of a... Oh, I closed this. Help if you don't do that. Cool. So we'll send this on some sort of a death course, probably, if we have time. We'll come back to that, but first thing we need to do is try to bring these guys back home. Beautiful. So there's our refuel done, and we're done here. So we just release this. This can now float freely, and we'll see about cleaning that up if we have time after these guys get home. But for the time being, we need to see about an interception with Kerbal here. So we can set that as our target, and the ascending node's way up there. Can we get an intercept without it? I don't want to target the rescue craft. I want to set Kerbal as our target, thanks. And I want to add a maneuver here. I'd be a little surprised if we're able to do this without changing inclination. Wait a second. Yeah, that's on the far side. Okay. Oh! Bingo. Without an inclination change. I love it. Okay, so let's fine-tune that approach. We don't really care where we're coming in as long as we are coming in low enough. That was quite a lag. Okay, as long as we're coming in low enough here to aero brake. So we're going to come in at around... And we're going to have to change our inclination as we do this, of course. We're going to come in at around, well, a ridiculous speed. But we're going to look to have this be like 40 kilometers, I think. Whoa, that's way too much. Okay. Once again on the way too much. I'm just using the scroll wheel here. Okay, let's try the graphical maneuver editor with the scale at minimum. We'll have to do it via text, I think. It's just too precise here. Okay. Yeah, look at that. Just changing 0.2 meters per second there moved it that much. Okay. That's so much. 0.215. That's very close. 214. That's almost exactly where we want it to be. We're going to have to fine-tune this on the way in for sure. Okay. Where are we relative to our rescue craft? Okay. Just checking. Just didn't want to lose our solar panels or anything. Cool. So at this point, we will go ahead and begin our warp. That burn will be very soon. And our thrust to weight is way higher, so we don't have any burn time issues. 410 days to go here until we get to that burn. But yeah, that's a very, very nice encounter there. We're going to be able to do a radial retrograde on the way in to fine-tune it. But we may fine-tune it way out here too. We're going to have a good amount of brake delta V as well. So this should be a pretty safe return. So really, all we ended up needing was about another 2,500 meters per second. That's really not bad. Cool. So now that the refuel is done, we will bring this on in soon. We're definitely starting to see some hitches going on. I think that's that memory leak I was talking about earlier, starting to rear its ugly head. Luckily, we're almost done here, so that's all good. 200 more days on this warp, and then we'll get this burn done. The burn will only be 1 minute 24 seconds. And that will be the majority of this fuel, but that's fine. And we'll get a solid aero brake out of it. In theory, anyway. Okay, 100 more days until Jeb, Bill, and Bob are properly on their way home. I don't think we're going to have time to deorbit the rescue craft, but that's fine. We don't need to. 30 days. 20. 10. Okay. We're 1 minute away from the burn. So let's warp on over. Okay. We need to try to hit this burn as accurately as we can. We're going to have to fine-tune it after the burn. Because this is incredibly sensitive at this point. Nailing this is also extremely important. So we'll attempt to get that done. I'm going to physics warp here for a bit until we get a little closer to done with this burn. "20 seconds left on the burn. 10. Okay, let's come out of physics warp. Okay. Let's just bring this in carefully here. Okay, there's our encounter. That is an impact. And that's way too much. So we need to tweak this. We need to thrust limit this down to 0.5%. There we go. And we're going to move it on around here. Okay. We're just going to lock to prograde for the moment. That seems to be where this is pointing. And we'll bring that on in. Gently. Gently. I want to move it a little further, but I think I'll overshoot if I do. I think we'll call this good, and we'll do a radial retrograde burn as we approach over this way. So what will that end up being? We have 719 meters per second to go here, and we definitely want to burn retrograde with that, but we're going to have to toss in radial as well to keep us from going too low in this. This is already more than we have. So we're going to be looking at something kind of like... something kind of like this-ish. I want to hit 40 kilometers because I want to have some good aero braking there. And hopefully we don't actually escape. Maybe we should actually go for 30 kilometers. I don't know. That feels risky at the speeds we're going to be coming in at. Let's see. We definitely need to pull this back a little bit. We have 719 meters per second here. So something kind of like that. 33 kilometers. Well, we do have a heat shield on here. And it's just going to be the heat shield and the capsule that we bring back. So that will clear off a lot of speed very quickly. Let's give it a go. We're going to start warping over there. And we're going to stow our photovoltaic panels. Actually, no, we're not. Those are attached to this tank. So we don't need to stow them. They're going to be ejected. Okay. Thank you for the channel, friend. I've enjoyed your series greatly. Perfect accompanying to playing. Well, thank you very much for that. I'm always glad to hear that people enjoy what I make. 300 days to go on this warp. It's going to be a spicy re-entry. I think that's very, very clear. 33 kilometers, I think I'll be safe, though. I think. So we'll see how this goes. 220 days. 180. 160. Did you disable the thrust limiter? That's a good question. I don't think I did. Burn time 1 hour. I definitely did not. So it's going to put us in too early, and that's way better than too late. I'm not going to disable it until after this time warp, but that's an excellent point. So it's gonna drop us out of this time warp way earlier than it needs to. That's fine. We'll allow it. I don't want to worry about canceling this warp and redoing it. Just because it sounds like work. So we'll redo the thrust limiter here as soon as we drop out of it, which will be now. There we go. Goes from 1 hour, 22 minutes to 24 seconds. Beautiful. That also gives us a chance to readjust our heading here, which isn't a bad thing either. So let's just head on in. Cool. So in about a minute, and you can see here, we're coming in at a pretty high velocity. Although it's not as high as some re-entries I've done. I think we'll be okay. We're going to start our burn here in about 30 seconds. Everybody looks so happy to see Kerbal. Wonderful. 5, 4, 3, 2... Oh, it's loading in Kerbal stuff. 1, and burn. Beautiful. So we're going to see this periapsis drop, in theory, to about 33 kilometers. If it gets below 30, or if it gets to 30, I'm going to cut this burn, but I don't expect it to. Cool. And we're close to hitting atmosphere, as it is right now. That's about perfect. So let's orient to radial here. There we go. And eject that, and then orient to retrograde surface. Cool. And I just wanted to eject it that way so that it would definitely not come back and hit us. We're going to be hitting the atmosphere here shortly, and that will all burn up. It will not survive. But yeah, we're only moving at about 3,800 meters per second. I've seen faster, for sure. This heat shield should be fine. In theory. I want to make sure I didn't accidentally get any of these deployed. I did not. Good. Okay. Let's aerobrake. I don't think we're coming back up. And we immediately see a heat gauge here. That's a little bit spooky. The ablation should handle it. In theory. That all burns up. We knew that that would happen. That was pretty spectacular, actually. At this point, our periapsis is now 30 kilometers. It's not going down that rapidly, but our speed is. Our speed is down to 3,500 meters per second. Okay. We're now in orbit around Kerbal, which means we are not going to escape Kerbal's gravity. That's fantastic. I don't think we're coming out of this atmosphere either. Yeah, time to periapsis is going up. We're not getting out of here. Cool. The heat gauge seems to be okay. We just entered flight mode. And our periapsis is now on the ground. Cool. There's still a lot of air between us and the ground. Our time to impact is about a minute. About 2 minutes, actually. And we're down below orbital velocity already. Yeah, we're slowing down so well. Down below 2 kilometers per second. This is very, very safe. I like it. That was always, of course, the plan. But 15 or 1.5 kilometers per second, actually 15 kilometers per second right now would be real spicy. We might be able to survive it with this ablator, but if we were planning to come in at 15 meters per second, I'd be going for like a 10-meter heat shield. If I'm honest. Our drogue chutes are now deployable. So, let's go ahead and do so. I did not mean for our main to deploy there, but I guess it did. They were in the same node, and luckily it didn't break. So, that's good. Our Mark 25 looks fine. I meant for only the drogues to deploy there, but nothing broke. So we're all good. At this point, we're completely safe. Beautiful. And what time is it? 2:57. Okay, that's like perfect timing. I like it. Well, that's one marginally successful mission to dress. I guess we can call that a success. Oh. Maybe not. Are these drogue chutes? Okay. Jeb, you can bail out, and you can deploy your chute. Cool. Bill, you can bail out, and you can deploy your chute. And Bob, you can bail out. Ah, no, wrong button. Bob is going to die here. Wait, it lived. I didn't expect it to live at 32 meters per second. Okay. Well, Bill is slowing on down here. Beautiful. Cool. All is good. All is good. So here comes Bill. I don't know if he'll survive this. We'll see. Sploosh. Yeah, he's fine. And Jebediah. Where is the ship? There we go. Cool. All is good. Jebediah needs to come on over this way. He just needs to loop around a bit. Bleed off some of this gravitational potential energy. There we go. We're going to have to take another pass here, but that's fine. Everybody lives. And they took a bit of an unnecessary excursion. But that's fine. Okay, Jeb just keeps getting lower on each pass, but he's not quite there yet. Cool. There you go, Jeb. Fantastic. Well, that was fun. So we're going to recover these guys, and I'm going to be ending the stream there. If we had had time, I would have deorbited the rescue craft, but it's all good. So we'll just get these guys recovered, and that will be great. Let's hop on over. The game is currently frozen. It definitely needs to be restarted, but that's going to happen here, for sure. Any moment now. We're not going to have to load in the others. I'm just going to recover them from the tracking station, and that'll be fine. So yeah, I'm going to have to end the stream there, but that was definitely that was an interesting stream. Not gonna lie. There was a lot that didn't go well, and I hope that was entertaining. But also, thank you very much for watching the stream, especially those of you who watched through those very long burns. Thank you very much for that. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this stream possible, including, if I can pull up my list here, Casserole, Sigma162, JJ Gamer, Ken to Win, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Video Games Are Not Real, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Kadra, Raw Potato, Elmichi Nazi, Justin Everett, Emiliano... Wow. I haven't messed that one up in a while. Emiliano Cambron, Martin Lawrence, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, click the join button down below the video. And as always, I will see you all next time.